At long last, Sony has finally unveiled the PlayStation 5. Sort of. The recently broadcast Road to PS5 digital presentation may not have been the bombastic reveal event some were expecting, but that doesn't mean that the 53-minute long showcase didn't unveil some fascinating new details about the technical specifications of Sony's next generation hardware. Here are 10 things we now know about the PlayStation 5. To call this presentation dry would be a bit of an understatement. If, like me, you're not hugely literate in the complex language of computer components and how they interface with one another, you probably looked like this throughout its entire runtime. Thankfully, Mark Cerny and his soothing, beautiful tones helped guide us through a talk that was 100% intended to be delivered to a room full of game developers and not an internet full of PlayStation fans ravenous for information. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that this is your warning that the content of this video is going to keep things relatively simple. If you're after the full technical specifications of the system, hop on over to our website. So let's start off with a piece of information fans have been desperate to find out. The PlayStation 5 has 10.2 teraflops of graphics processing power. A teraflop is how many calculations a GPU can perform per second, and is used before a system is launched as an example of how much graphical power it will have. The PlayStation 4 is capable of 1.84 teraflops, while a PS4 Pro is capable of 4.2. By comparison, 10.2 is quite a significant upgrade. This news will come as a disappointment to some fans, seeing as Microsoft announced recently that their next-gen system, the Xbox Series X, is capable of 12 teraflops. To be honest, this isn't really a huge deal. Even Mark Cerny himself described this unit of measurement as being only one part of the GPU. As we all know, a console is about much more than just how powerful its graphics processor is. We already knew the PS5 will include a solid-state drive, but Cerny expanded on what benefits this new addition will bring for both developers and players. For starters, Cerny and his team are aiming to deliver instantaneous loading times. In the presentation, Cerny described a number of scenarios where loading times will be so quick that things like fast travel and respawning after a death can occur without the need for a loading screen at all. Pretty impressive stuff. The drastically different way an SSD reads data compared to the traditional style of hard drives, such as those currently found within the PlayStation 4, will also result in changes to the way data is installed on the system. For instance, Sony revealed that lengthy patch installs will be a thing of the past, with the system no longer needing to reinstall data following an update. Sony explained that the PlayStation 5's proprietary SSD aims to solve 5 core problems. It will allow games to boot up in a second. It will eliminate load screens. It will allow developers to design with freedom, removing the need for players to endure long elevator rides or slow walks down long corridors while the game loads data in the background. It allows for more game to be included on both a disk and on the SSD, and it makes patch installs go away. Combined, these features could result in a truly significant generational leap when it comes to the way games are experienced. So how big is this SSD anyway? Well, according to Cerny, the SSD included with the PS5 will feature 825GB of storage space. That's admittedly a little smaller than the 1TB hard drives currently found in the PlayStation 4 Pro, but it sounds like the improvements afforded by dedicated SSD far outweigh concerns around size. Plus, Cerny made a point that data duplication, a common development trick that aims to speed up games by including multiple copies of the same asset within the game's files, will no longer be required and may result in smaller install sizes. Still, if you do want to upgrade your SSD, you can. Kind of. Cerny revealed that Sony will not be developing proprietary SSD attachments, and will instead allow players to buy regular SSDs that they can then install into their consoles via a dedicated slot. The issue is that Sony's SSD is so advanced that you won't be able to buy one just yet. Cerny expects that compatible models will become commercially available around the time of the PlayStation 5's launch, however, and that Sony will provide a list of compatible drives for consumers to reference as soon as they have performed internal testing. The PS5 will be backwards compatible with most of the top 100 most played PlayStation 4 games at launch. Despite the core architecture of the PlayStation 5 being fundamentally similar to that of the PS4, Cerny explained that each game still has to be tested on the hardware individually, and with a library of over 4,000 games, this may take some time. So while you may be able to dive straight into Uncharted 4 come launch day, it looks like you'll have to wait a little while longer before you can boot up your copy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Still, you can connect a traditional external hard drive to your PlayStation 5 in order to store your PlayStation 4 data, saving your precious SSD space for PS5 exclusive titles. A lovely touch that I'm sure will prove essential for those space-conscious players that still want to play Bloodborne during the next console generation. You know how your PlayStation 4 sounds like the jet engine taking off whenever you boot up Dreams? Well, it seems like fan noise should no longer be an issue thanks to a number of very clever additions to the PlayStation 5. One of the more interesting announcements of the presentation was more information about the PS5's ability to generate next-generation 3D audio. Sony spoke at length about the Tempest engine, a core tenet of the console that sounds like a genuine game changer. Didn't mean to use sound as a pun there. The goal for the Tempest engine is to bring dual standard audio to everyone, not just those with a VR headset or an expensive soundbar, the result of which being a greater sense of in-game presence. Where a PlayStation 4 game, for example, may attempt to increase immersion to a scene by adding a single rainy sound effect, the Tempest engine will allow developers to simulate the sound of hundreds of individual raindrops falling around a player instead. Currently, the system is optimised for headphone users, but the goal really is to bring it to everyone, with the team working on bringing this advanced feature set to those who play games on a standard television. At this point in the presentation, Mark Cerny then told everyone how an ear works before claiming Sony may request we send them videos of our ears so they can determine how best to broadcast sound out of your TV. Apparently, the optimal settings for this exciting new technology relies on the shape and makeup of our individual ears. Yes, this actually happened. I thought I'd fallen asleep and dreamt this bit, to be completely honest, but no, if Mark Cerny wants a picture of my ear, he's more than welcome to have it. Why not? I'll WhatsApp it to him straight away. Last but certainly not least, this audience was not real. These people are simulated, they have to be. They went from perfectly stationary to moving ever so slightly in a split second, and it was weird and creepy, and I didn't like it. Bizarre. So, there we have it. 10 things we learned from the Road to PlayStation 5 presentation. No doubt a lot of you are disappointed that today's technical deep dive wasn't quite what everyone was hoping for, but it is worth remembering that this talk was intended to be delivered to a room full of game developers at this year's sadly cancelled Game Developers Conference. It fundamentally wasn't created for a general gaming audience. But rest assured that this is just the first part of Sony's plans for revealing the PS5. As the company continues to monitor the current global situation, conferences and events that may have been set in motion as early as last year have no doubt been thrown into disarray as a result of the ongoing uncertainty. But it will happen. Sony will come back with a presentation that focuses on games, the controller and the design of the actual console. Their priority, as is everyone's at the moment, is the health and safety of their staff. On that note, until then, I hope everyone watching stays safe and looks after one another. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and make sure to subscribe to Push Square for everything PlayStation. Thanks for watching, and I leave you today with some lo-fi Mark Cerny beats to study and relax to.
Back to the Flash controller. On the other side, it connects to our main custom chip via 4 lanes of Gen 4 PCIe. And inside the main custom chip is a pretty hefty unit dedicated to I/O. Before we talk about what that does, let's talk compression for a moment. PlayStation 4 used zlib as its compression format. We decided to use it again on PlayStation 5, but on my 2017 tour of developers, I learned about a new format called Kraken from Rad Game Tools. It's like zlib's smarter cousin. Simple, similar types of algorithms, but about 10% better compression, which is pretty big. That means 10% more game on the UHD Blu-ray disc or on the SSD. Kraken had only been out